about people who say, they can sell anything. But selling, for me, has to start before you start selling. You must know what you are selling and what is special about it. This rundown would feature as this discussion comes forward, where we now begin to understand more about the role between sales and finance. But knowing your products and knowing what is great about it, because you might have a product that every product has its own strength and weakness. So you must know what strength your product has, that should be the reason why consumers should buy your products. The other thing about every salesperson should know is that makes a great salesperson is aligning your interests with that of your customers or distribution chain. Sometimes customers are not the end consumers of the products that we sell, like FMCG being, for example. If I sell to a ShopRite, ShopRite is not consuming those products. They will still sell to someone else. If I sell to a distributor will sell to a wholesaler might sell to a sub, and then that sub sells to a retailer. So aligning interests, knowing what is important to these people, and finding, you don't always have to align 100%, but to a large extent, the conflict you encounter in sales is usually due to misaligned interests. So as much as possible, you need to, if you want credit of 30 days and the distributor wants credit of 90 days, you see that there's a mismatch in alignment. So you might need to meet maybe in the middle and say, okay, 45 days or 60 days. Alignment of interest is important. Number 3 is you must be process driven. Any operation or any role in any business in general that is not process driven is just based on luck. If you cannot talk about a system with which you can achieve your results on a consistent basis, then then it means you can't guarantee that you can replicate it.
Absolutely.
That's one. And 2 is that you can't also guarantee that the organization as a whole, because any organization that depends on one salesperson has a very serious key man risk. Once that person leaves the organization, the business is as good as over. So,
or even a distributor, one channel of selling.
Exactly.
A huge volume.
Exactly. So there must be a process.
Yeah.
So there must be a method to the madness, and that guarantees you, consistent results, and also make sure that you have a sustainable business. And lastly, but by no means the least, is tenacity. I think that this tenacity, when it's all said and done, is what separates great salespeople from average salespeople. It's what separates salespeople, in fact, from the rest of the company.
Yes.
The fact that many times it will seem that like there is no way, like you can't just get ahead.
Okay.
But you have to dig deep. You have to, go to some place, that some place that you don't go every day, and make sure that you can grind out the results. So those are the things that make a great salesperson, or a great sales team.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's so kind. That's so nice. I think I will allow Eniola to also give us some intro as to this. So Eniola, as you came in, we're talking about from the sales perspective, from the salesperson's perspective, what are the expectations of the salesperson from the finance people, in being able to achieve their objectives. So, and you as a person, leading a finance function, I'm sure you have the things that you want the salespeople to do to make life easier for you. So would you want to let us know those things that you consider very important, that the salespeople are supposed to pay their attention to? We know they are supposed to sell. Okay, first, let me welcome you. So welcome. So I hope you had a good meeting. Yes. Okay. So please, would you just go ahead and answer the questions that I just said? Okay. So what are your expectations from the salespeople for you to be able to meet your goals at the end of the year? I mean, at the beginning of the year, you have goals that have been set out for you. So and you also have your own plan and strategy as to how you want to achieve this. So what are the things that you expect the salespeople from the top to the bottom? What do you expect them to do for you to be able to achieve your objectives?
Okay, thank you very much, Binga. Can you hear me clearly?
Very well, yes. Please go ahead.
Okay,
Just
fantastic.
that we didn't see your face very well.
Oh, you can't see my
The
face.
light, yeah, we can see your face, but the light is
Okay, the light, because maybe
yes.
because I'm back in the light. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think you probably already kind of like started the conversation. So I'll just very quickly go straight into it. So as a finance person, when you ask me what my expectations are from the sales team, I think it goes without saying that the sales team is quite critical, right, in any business, because they are the ones that kind of like bring it home for all of us, who have been part of the whole process within the organization. They basically get out there, engage the customers, and then make it happen. So for
Yes.
sure, I think it goes without saying that they're quite critical in any organization. We starting from the creation process by the research and development team down to the marketing organizations that bring the ideas to life, manufacturing, and then we need to get it to the hands of the customers and consumers at the end of the day. So they really are responsible from an execution standpoint. Sell the cases, the bridge between us in the business and also the market. They understand the dynamics actually of what exactly makes the product sell. So
Yeah.
if you ask me in terms of, okay, what exactly are my expectations from a salesperson? Obviously, the primary one would be basically to sell, get the cases out there, because that's what counts at the end of the day. But beyond that, selling is there's a lot of elements to selling, right? And I think sometimes when we say sell, it sounds very simple, but there's different aspects to it. So a key aspect is basically obviously building relationships with the customers, because those relationships go a long way in how we're able to bring our ideas, get the engagement that is needed from those customers. On the other hand, I would say thinking a bit more about it, anyone can sell for free. I heard the other speaker just
Sabina.
now
Yes.
mentioning that you can sell $1 for
For
99
90.
cents. You don't need to be a great salesperson to do that.
Yes.
Anyone can sell anything for free, but
Yeah.
it takes a great salesperson to really create value. And I think that's what, as a finance person, that is what I'll be looking out for from a sales, from my sales team, basically, because it's not just about shipping the cases. It's about really creating value. And how do you create value? There's several ways, right? You do more with less. The resources that we bring to bear to actually execute the sales process, getting better value from those resources, for sure, is one way to deliver value for the business. The other one for me would also be really collecting the money, because when you make a sale, it's not complete until the money is in the bank.
Yes.
I think that I want to believe majority of the salespeople, even though sometimes it might appear not quite obvious, but I'm sure most salespeople know that, right? It's one thing to actually get the cases into the hand of the customer, but the critical one is really now completing that sale process by actually getting the money back. So, and doing that obviously as fast as possible creates value for the business. So for sure, it's one of the key things that I'll be looking out for from a salesperson. And of course, beyond that, continue to pursue, further opportunities to sell more, grow the business, expand the territory, really bring the outside in. So really tell us what exactly is happening out there. What's competition doing? What can we do better? How can we ensure that, we're driving more sales, growing our business, creating more value for our customers and for the business as a whole? So I would say really these are the kind of things that I will be looking out for from a salesperson generally.
Fantastic. So there's so much you have put on the plates of the salespeople. So and on top of all this, I believe that from my own personal experience, I used to think it was actually war. So I don't know what it is now, because I'm not working in an organization where the functions are well cut out. Okay, so probably in my role, I'm managing marketing function and all of this function, and then in my head I'm able to dissect what attention is to be given to everybody. The idea is that people in the finance function are fighting for their objectives, and then the people in the sales function are also fighting. So sometimes some of these things are at cross, they seem like to be at cross purposes. Okay, so for me, I am driving sales, and then I know that I'm using credit as an instrument of sales, but these finance people are shouting, when are you going to get all this money back? And then the next thing I'll tell you, please, can you follow me to the market to go and get the money? How does this sound to you when when you hear this kind of feedback?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a tough one, but the way I see it is there are several tools that a salesperson uses to make a sale. Credit is one of them. It's one of it's, you could say, in a sense, to an extent, is one of the tools that you use to drive the business both ways. As a business person, there will be the customers asking us for credit, but trust me, on the other hand, I'm also asking some other suppliers for credit as well. So
Exactly.
it's a given in the business cycle, right? The key thing is that credit needs to be designed to support the business objectives. It cannot be working at cross purposes with what the business goals are. And I think that's really where it all comes to play, right? Between the finance person and the salesperson. How well have all the parties involved, how well have they really understood clearly the goals and the objectives of the business? Because if that is well understood, I think, with all due respect, I think any salesperson, would understand, what we're working for. Nobody wants to, just be ticking the box. One analogy that I sometimes give is, you don't want to go out in the morning, go to work, do all you can, invest all the energy and the effort, and you come back home at the end of the day with nothing. Like, nobody wants to be in that position. So I think a clear understanding of, okay, the business goals, the business objectives, and then designing the credit terms to ensure that they support the business objectives, such that you are very clear, okay, what exactly, credit is a form of investment for the business. So what is the return I'm expecting to get when I put in this investment into the business? How have I designed it such that it's able to deliver on those returns and those objectives? I think this is how people should think about it. Credit in itself is not bad because it's part of business and we all use it one way or the other. But it needs to be driving an objective, and those objectives need to be aligned with the overall business objectives.
Okay, let me throw in one more question before I go to Tobina. Okay, so one of the questions that
Okay.
came in: can a company be financially down or bankrupt despite meeting its monthly sales targets? Okay, so the salespeople are meeting their targets, but we are hearing that the company is going down. So what is happening? Who is responsible?
Okay, the who is responsible part is a very tricky one, right?
Yes.
I would say simple answer is yes. Yes, a company can be financially down while meeting its sales targets. And in this context, I'm defining sales targets as just being able to record that I have moved product from my warehouse to the customer's warehouse and recorded a sale. So if that is how you measure target, yes, because like we said earlier on, there are several elements to delivering the sales. The reason is that, even though you might be meeting your sales target in the context of you've actually made a sale and said, I've recorded a sale. Yeah. On the books, yes, you have. However, sales does not necessarily equals to cash or profit. So the fact that you have transferred title or ownership of a product from yourself to somebody else does not mean that the business is financially healthy. There are several elements to it, so I won't say who is responsible. I won't be able to say, oh, it's one person that is responsible.
Because the salespeople are going to say that they are doing their bit, right? So who is not making the company to stay afloat?
Again, that's why I said it's a tricky question in terms of who, because the key thing you probably want to probe a bit more would be what exactly are the issues that the company is facing that is not making it stay afloat? Is it working capital related? Maybe its receivables are so high, it sold so much and collected so little, and it's no longer able to run the business. If that's the case, for sure, there is a problem from a sales standpoint. But obviously, I won't say only sales, because sales also has people that work with them, right? Who are like finance people that should, kind of like be the check and balance for them. So I wouldn't put it all down to, one function. I think it would be a collective effort. When we succeed together. And when we fail, probably not more than one person has actually failed. Now, the reality of it is that what really keeps a business going is cash. And if you are unable to keep afloat in terms of really have cash to manage your day-to-day operations, pay salaries, buy, raw and pack materials or products so that you can actually have something to sell. For sure, you will not be able to stay afloat. So those are the key things that you would need to, you know, double click on in terms of, okay, does it have cash? And again, even if the products have very high margins, very profitable, if you sell all that you have in your warehouse and you have not collected for it, you will not be able to replenish. And if you cannot replenish, guess what? You run out of business. So these are just the realities of it. So it's a broad-based responsibility. It's not left to one person. And I think, you know, the more we all can appreciate the roles, the skills, and the capabilities that the different functions in any business bring to bear, and rely on it, knowing that, okay, I may be the expert in selling the cases, but I may not necessarily be the expert in being able to make the call as to who is credit worthy and who is not. And being able to rely on the judgment of the multifunctional team, I think that is how, you know, businesses succeed. And frankly speaking, on vice versa, if businesses fail, it's probably due to failure of more than just one function.
That's a very good way to close. Okay, so not, to close that question, I meant to say. So Tobena,
Okay.
please. I'm going to ask you this question. So, so as a sales professional, you know, we already agreed that this is a heavy task. So how much do I need to care about the finance of my company? So do I just come in the morning, my boss has given me my target, let me just go at it? How much care do I need to have concerning the financial health of the organization?
Okay. So, you know, the thing about, you know, Eniola, so very well spoken. And, you know, as you were speaking, I had this sardonic smile on my face because, you know, what you say is very true, and is the way it should be. But you see, it all depends on the company, really. A company that has a more, and where you're coming from is from a company that has a more holistic thought process around how to run their business. So I know that I need sales and finance and the other guys to strike something of a balance to work. But you see, what makes business interesting is the human factor. To digress a little, when a gun is shot, if someone shoots in a crowded room, someone who is a soldier or a policeman might run in the direction of the gunshot to tackle the shooter. Average people like you and I will run away. The point I'm trying to make is some companies react to the realities of business, maintaining this holistic thought process, while some companies, you know, operate more based on the realities on a day-to-day basis. So there is this talk about, you know, we all need to work as a team, but in actual fact, the salespeople are being told that get results. I don't care how you get them. You understand me? You're giving them ultimatums, you know, and in some cases, their compensations are tied to significant chunks of their compensation is tied to meeting their sales targets. And in that case, a salesman now becomes like, you know, a non-commissioned soldier. You know, in warfare, sales is, or business is warfare in a manner of speaking. You have the officers and co who are planning the strategy, but for the guy who you send to the field to engage in battle, you don't tell him so much of the strategy. You just tell him what the objective is, and his thinking is that I must achieve this objective. You don't give him room to question the actions he should take too much. And that's the way sales is. Yes, sales might make some inputs in hitting targets, but you know, for a salesman, failure plus a good explanation can never equate to success. The only definition of success is hitting your targets. And then that makes a salesman a different type of animal. He's someone who is all about, who is more battle, who thinks more of the battle than the war. He thinks more about what can I achieve today, what can I achieve this week, and less about how does this help the company going forward, you know, how is this, you know. So based on that, you know, you forgive a salesman or saleswoman if they don't think if they only think of what will help them achieve their objectives. Because sales is one of those roles, finance also being one of them. Being interested in one of those two roles where you are judged almost solely based on numbers. There is no such thing as, like, say, marketing or HR, where you can say, okay, there are some qualitative elements. You are judged based on numbers, simple and short. So when you have quantitative based incentives, what you find is that people they don't think in too many layers. They just think about the objective. How can I get all the things that would help me achieve my objective? And that's the nature of the salesman.
So what I'm getting now, Tobina, what I'm getting now
Yeah.
is the point that salespeople, the way they are wired, would not want to bother too much about whether the company is making profits. I mean, they are living by the day. So how much order I'm able to get today, because my boss is not going to ask me, the person I'm reporting is not going to ask me, the company is not making profit. He's going to ask me, how much have you sold? So if my mind is fixated on the numbers of how many that I'm going to sell today or that I'm going to sell at the end of the month, I'm not going to worry so much about whether what I'm going to sell eventually is going to help the company to make profit. I would just assume naturally that the more that I sell, the better for the company. All right. So I think that's what I'm getting. So let me also now use this to push the next question, which is about product pricing. So many times the finance people come to us, and Yola is hearing me. So they see that the accounts are going into the red zone, and then they feel like, let's add something to this price now. We are selling beyond our cost. But since people don't like to hear price increase, because they know that when they get back to the customer, they will have the job of explaining to the customer what they really know little about. They don't really know the reason why this price is going to go up. They just hear that, oh, there is inflation and all of that. And because they don't have the fine numbers to be able to say this is the reason why this price has to go up by 10%. So what should the finance function do to ensure that, from time to time they get a buy-in from the salespeople, when there is going to be a price increase?
So is this for me or for Eniola?
It's for you, So what would the finance people, so it's like an expectation. The finance people, they have the templates. They have these fantastic spreadsheets. They can use, they just drag it, and then the formula, all the new prices will come in place because they have put the percentage somewhere. So, but they have done all of this and they are convinced why these prices have to go up. So how do they, get the salespeople to get encouraged? Because what happens first is that the salespeople are demotivated when they hear that there is a price increase. And then they are fighting a war to make sure that the customers are also happy. They are not fighting back. So how do you expect the finance people to onboard salespeople even before they start confronting the customers about price increase?
Okay. So there are two things. The first thing is you need to convince salespeople that, especially if this price increase is not is in some case, if it's higher, if it's at a premium to what the competition is offering, you need to convince the salespeople that the company is financially prudent enough, such that this is the best. Like there's really no option than to increase prices, because if they see that the company is, for example, spending, and you see that then brings in another war front of sales versus marketing. So if you tell me, oh, we need to increase prices, but I see marketing budgets going up, the next thing I say is, why are you spending so much on marketing where you can, take some of that money to cushion the cost of this product? Do we really need to increase the price? We can spend less on marketing, or spend less on these fancy softwares that we're buying, or spend less on, some other area. And or the guys who are developing the product should go and look at how are they buying right? Are we buying more expensive? Or is our recipe, well, now I'm talking of, an FMCG product, or is our product, the cost of our product, is it too high? So these are the first things that you need to convince the sales team on. You understand me? That we are as prudent as we should, and So there's really no option other than to increase price. The second thing is also around, just a second. The second thing also is around letting the salespeople. So there's another thing finance should do in the area of education, because there's something I've found out, especially in highly competitive industries in Nigeria. In some cases, sometimes you are competing with companies whose products are cheaper, but their financial processes are not that thorough or are not that sturdy.
Yeah.
So you have some companies where they don't factor a lot of costs into their cost structure. I'm sure Eniola knows a lot about this. So they are able to price at a low price, but they know, but unknown to them, they are postponing the evil day. Or in some cases, they could be companies that were set up where the principals have very deep pockets and they're happy to, undercut you for a long period of time in order to gain market share. So finance also needs to educate sales on the fact that these guys are engaging, whatever the competition is engaging in, because really, if everybody's increasing price, it's easier to sell. But where you're increasing and maybe some other guy is not increasing, that's really what causes the conflicts more for salespeople. So you need to be able to educate salespeople on the fact that, these other guys are not running a sustainable business, and that, if we dug it out for a while, eventually, it will show that, they will not be able to sustain the market. And we've seen that happen a lot in so many businesses. But, I think and then the last thing, which I think is also very important, I don't want to say most important, but very, very important, is this whole idea around trade-offs. And you see, it goes to my original points, where we see that
Hello. Oh, we lost you.
if you
Okay.
say that we want, hello,
Yeah,
can you hear
please
me?
go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. So if you say we should be more aggressive, you know.
Oh. Hello, Tobena. I think we're losing you.
On hello.
Okay, we lost you for a moment.
Yes. Yeah. So if so, it's the issue of trade-offs. A company that is trying to increase price, especially relative to the competition, should expect some kind of pushback. So it is for sales and finance to agree that there will be reactions and to see, how some expectations can be revised.
So let me use this. So let me use this to now go over to Eniola. Okay, so I know Eniola has worked for our organization both within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So, and I want you to also put all of these things in context, as in what is, happening in Nigeria, elsewhere outside Nigeria. So, would you consider it necessary for the finance function to share all this financial information with salespeople? I'm not saying, to the last mile. I'm talking about, the head of the financial function, why you have to increase price, why products have to be sold at a certain price. Because in marketing, pricing is also one of the strategies for salespeople to sell. So if the control over who decides the price is not within their purview, so how would they be able to use it as a strategy to sell?
Okay, so I think you said it rightly, right? The pricing is one of the 4 Ps.
Yes.
And so when you look at the product, it's not just the product, price is one of those elements. And I think I would say for me, listening to Bina, I would say this is where trust plays a role. And this is where being able to leverage the strengths and capabilities of the most functional team, like I said earlier on, also plays a role. I've been in these discussions, several times. I think over the course of my career, it's always a tension point. By default, sales never wants to price. They always believe the lower the price, the better for us. But I think over time, what I've also seen, and I think that's where really understanding the business and what are the key business drivers, that's where it plays a role. There are different types of products, right? There's some products that actually they are by default call it premium products. And this is where our marketing friends are the experts, because they are the ones that build the brands. They are the ones that engage the consumers and understand the positioning of the products. So it's not all the time that pricing, low pricing actually, is a key business driver for every product. It depends on the product. It depends on the target audience that the product or the brand is designed for. There's some products, and I've worked on some of them, whereby the higher the price, the more it's perceived by its target audience as being the right product for them. And I think
Right.
our sales friends just need to accept and understand these concepts. And I agree with Tobina. That is where our role as finance people comes in educating. It's not all the time about explaining to you why the cost of the product is A, and as a result, we need to take a 10% pricing. Not necessarily. But of course, being able to at least articulate what is driving that. And I think, like I said earlier on, for me, when I say do more with less as one of the expectations I have of a salesperson, some of my best salespeople have been people that have said, actually, on this product, we shouldn't be running a promotion that is this deep, because it doesn't make any sense. We've seen it, whether I sell at a 30% depth of deal or a 20% depth of deal, I sell the same thing. So what's the point? These are the kind of engagements that help drive the business forward. And despite the fact that it may seem like salespeople prefer lower price products, actually the best salespeople understand the product, understand the positioning, understand the customer, and they bring that knowledge back to bear, because they help us to really craft the plans that work. I had a recent discussion with a relatively senior salesperson. He's been a salesman all his life. And he basically said, historically for some of the products that we have in our company, his grooming has always been, you don't promote them, because the consumers don't change their choice of the products because of the price. What will make them change their choice of product has absolutely nothing to do with price. It has something to do with every other element, maybe some of the other elements of the 4Ps, but not price. And that kind of understanding is something that we need to make sure that it cascades down the organization. It's not just for the marketing guys to know and dictate. It is for them to know and educate the rest of the team as to why this is the right direction or why this is the right proposition for that particular product. So I think at the end of the day, yes, it's tough to sell pricing, but sometimes it's needed. An example would be in today's world in Nigeria, there is devaluation, right? The Naira has moved officially from 360 to 380. The market prices of a lot of things have increased. Suppliers have also increased the cost of the products. So just by looking at those macroeconomic dynamics, it's almost impossible to say I would hold my prices down. And I think this is where, really not thinking just the short term of I want to just sell cases, but ideally I would say I want to have a job in a company that is going to be here in the next 2-3 years. And to do that, of course, you don't want to run the company down. You don't want to run the financials down. You don't want it to become bankrupt. So all this understanding needs to come to bear. There is a need for education. And I think one of the key things, some of the feedback I've gotten in my own experience working with sales, because I've worked with them like a lot of times. I think of it as I started my career working with salespeople, and I will always work with them. What I've realized is they're very smart people as well. What you just need to do is explain. Bring them closer up to speed as to what you're seeing. And what I've seen is that when you're able to do that, then you really tap into this, broader expertise that they have as salespeople. And they actually sometimes come back and say, oh, actually, based on what you've told me, I think this is what we should do. They come with very great ideas, because remember, they're the ones in the marketplace. We sit in the office, we do our best to stay in touch, but on a daily basis, these guys are out there and they see what's happening in the marketplace. And we just need to make sure we continue to leverage that by educating them and tapping into the strengths of the combined team.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I think some of the issues that we have had in the past is when the finance people decide to play a policing role, and yes, and I think this also, this also depends on individuals, in some instances. But I think as a culture of the organization, this cross-functional alignment which will involve engagement, education, and all of those things, is also very important. So what is the idea? What is the essence of working in a multinational when you don't understand how products are, how costing is being done? So the opportunity for the finance people to engage, rather than, just like you said, rather than sitting down in the office and then churning out policies, finance policies, credit policies, and all of those things. And then at the end of the month, you send somebody to go and audit the stock. And then when they see finance people, everybody starts jumping through the window. Everybody is, running around to ensure that they are not caught pants down, that they have not put the record straight, or that, they have exposed the company unnecessarily. So for me, I think the policing factor is what should, be thrown out of the mix, so that salespeople can see finance people as collaborators. They can see themselves in the same boat, fighting to achieve the same purpose and objective. That was very good. So I also want to ask another question, throw another question to you, Eniola. So it also goes to how you are able to relate with the salespeople. So there is, for example, in this current situation, there is a meltdown, the forex and all of that. So one of the things that you begin to do as a finance director now is to begin to look at cost control, okay? So which means that some of those expenses that the salespeople readily get very easily, you sign it for them, their hotel expenses, their travel expenses. So some of these things are going to be it. And then you know that these are some of the motivations that salespeople get. I've been a salesperson, so all these things, when they come and they are official, they are legit, they are like my motivation. So, but by the time you begin to touch those sensitive things, so how do you expect, these people to be able to accept some of these things, or how do you want to manage those situations whereby you are asking them, you've used the word today that they should do more with less. So how do you, from time to time, encourage them, even without a meltdown? I believe that for the profitability of the organization, salespeople should be able to achieve more with less. So how do we, get to communicate this to them from time to time, or, being able to make them see reasons?
Okay. I think, honestly, I think on this one, it depends on the organization, right? At the end of the day, there is a benefit system or benefit structure that touches different functions in different ways. From my own perspective, I think what is critical is making sure that each function, especially the sales function, is well equipped with whatever is required to do their job.
But now you
So
are cutting
if I
the
need
budget.
a salesperson,
You are cutting the budget because of
yes, and that's why I said, if you recall earlier, and I said a great salesperson would always find ways to do more with less, because when things are tough in an economy, everybody needs to tighten their belt. Like, if everybody in Nigeria literally took a pay cut during this COVID crisis, right? Because there's some of our expenses that are not Naira denominated. Even if you're buying the products here in Nigeria, some of them are imported. And by virtue of the fact that they're imported and the Naira has devalued, whatever you were getting before, you won't get it again. I was in the stores, a few days ago, and you can literally see it, like, the prices are up on a lot of things, but your income is still the same, right? So I think that is something that cuts across everyone, and the sales function is not left out of that. And I'm pretty sure, if I look at it from a P&L standpoint, actually the biggest cost element is the product itself, right? Because you have to have a product before you can actually sell the product. That is for most companies. Some are lucky their products are very cheap and they can charge a high price for it. But most organizations, the cost of a product is probably where you spend the bulk. And I don't know what experience we have in the group, but usually what delivering cost savings on cost of products takes a lot of effort, and it takes quite some time. However, on, call it, overhead costs, you can make choices, and I think it will be the right thing for everyone from all functions, including sales, to really ask themselves, okay, do I really need to make this spend at this particular point in time? In my own organization today, we've made some choices. Some of them are COVID related. So for example, in the last 3 months, I don't think anybody has traveled anywhere in most parts of the world, because just by virtue of the fact that, travel is restricted, nobody can go anywhere.
I'm
So I
not
think
sure
those are
that's a
just some
choice.
realities. Exactly. So that's just some realities. And I think the creativity of our sales function, I've seen quite a lot of creative things come up, because you still have to sell the cases. The markets are not open every day, but you still have to run the business. So you come up with creative solutions. So I think the key thing would be for the sales teams to not see it as you're cutting my budget, but to see it as we are all contributing to the success of the organization. It's
Sacrifice.
tough times, we've all grown up, in tough times, and your parents will tell you, okay, I'm sorry, you will have to make, some choices on some things. It's exactly that. It doesn't have anything to do with not liking you as a child or not liking the sales function. It's just every single person in the organization has to, chip in their own bit. And I think that if we all see it from that point of view, I think it's an easier conversation to have.
Yeah, fantastic. So, Tobina, let me come to you. So we saw one question from one of the participants sent in earlier. So he was trying to, he or she was asking, how do you manage cash collection and recovery for modern trade? I'm sure the person is referring to the likes of ShopRite and all of that. So this is, usually FMCG. I know it's a lot of troubles for businesses, managing their relationship with them in terms of credit. So how would they be able to, so if the person is asking, what is the strategy? What strategy would you use to be able to manage credit facility with those kind of organizations?
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to modern trade, also depending on the size, because the smaller mom and pop would always be more, to some extent, more flexible than the bigger shop rights and spas and the like. And the thing with modern trade is they're very strong on policy. So if they tell you 60 days, it's 60 days. It will be very difficult for you to get them to do 30 days because if you don't get the money fast, you will be out of business. So that's as far as it goes. But as a general, um, as a general, you know, um, will I say, as a general point of strategy, the person who needs it most holds the most power. So if um, if they need your product seriously and there's no other person providing that product, then it's easier for you to negotiate more favorable terms. In fact, for many of these modern trade outlets, when they start up, because they're trying to establish themselves, many of them buy and pay cash. But as they begin to establish themselves and establish themselves as a viable channel for you to sell, and you become more dependent on them, they say, wait, hold up, why we cash? Why don't you give us credit?
So you are beginning to need them more than they need you.
Exactly. So the truth is that whole balance of power breaks down policies and processes and best practices. If I need you and I can't get what you're offering elsewhere, then you're in a position to make me become flexible, even though I say I can never be flexible. So that's it. But modern trade generally, if you're talking about the very big companies, they can be very, especially when they have established themselves, they typically wield a lot of power. What you want to do also as a matter of general, strategy is to, as much as possible, diversify your distribution. The moment one particular customer represents a very large chunk of your distribution, or at least represents a very large chunk of your customer base, then that's disaster waiting to happen. So diversify as a matter of strategy, and don't allow one single person hold you by your lower regions.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Okay, so like we know, this is a chat room. So if there's anyone, if you have any contribution to make, because we are almost at the closing end of this, if you have any contribution to make, please, you can just indicate by raising your hand, and then I will unmute you to be able to make your point. But while we're waiting for that, one thing I also want to say about the retail sales, I think every organization, as a business, as a supplier, you should be able to have a risk assessment of what you're going to do in terms of relating with these retail businesses. So if you know that the 60 days credit is not something you can manage, why do you want to forcefully, put yourself into ShopRite? Because you know that these people have said 60 days, and then you do not have the cash flow to run the 60-day cycle. Okay, so and the trade-off. Okay, Tobena was the one that also mentioned, you use the word trade-off. So you also want to look at it. What do you stand to lose? Look at the opportunity cost. What do you stand to lose by not being in ShopRite? Okay, so if the opportunity cost, for not being in ShopRite outweighs, your being there, then you have to look for ways of managing this. All right, you might also have to look for alternative sources of funding your business to be able to extend this credit to your, to the downline, to the people that are selling for you. I mean, just like Eniola said, there are people who are giving them credit, and then they are also extending credit to their customers. So, but if you are not able to, have a good balance, then you find yourself, at some point that you are, all pants down, you are wet. So I think it's for the company to be able to assess the risk. There are people who have been with ShopRite from inception, and they are cool with them. And for those that are finding it difficult, it's probably you don't have the financial war chest to be able to, manage the kind of business that they are doing. But if you also look at it that, these people are, throwing a lot of volume for us, then you might want to say, oh, let's see how we can, contain this risk. So do we have anyone that wants to make a contribution or comment, or you have a question that you want to ask, concerning this conversation? Okay, yes, so please, Akinwale Akinkowo, please, you can go ahead and ask your question. Let me unmute you. Akinwale, please go ahead.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. I really learned a lot today. I have sent my questions when I was registering, but then okay. I will repeat it. Okay. I have been in the FMCG selling biscuit, confectionaries, vegetable oil, and all of that. But I'm considering accepting an offer from an agro-allied company. They are into production of frozen foods and farm inputs, piggery, and all of that. So for the first time, I don't know really how to leverage on the experience I've had, because it's a different setting entirely, because I'm used to open markets, except for modern trade. I know that modern trade also buy some frozen foods, but to a large extent, I need an assistance in terms of how to approach something. Approach, yes,
some
advice. So I can hit the ground running.
Yeah, yes. That's fine. Well, I thought it was going to be something that was very related to the topic that we are discussing here. I'm sure it's something that we can take, offline, maybe from here. If there's a way you can reach me, you can, I can talk to you about this. But if I want to quickly say one or two things before, as I wait for another person that would like to make a comment, is the fact that there are some, if you have been a successful salesperson where you are coming from, I don't think you will have a struggle, being successful where you are going, because there are some fundamentals of selling. You need to understand there is knowledge, there is the knowledge aspect, there is the relationship aspects of the business. Okay, there's a way, there is need for you to be able to relate with your customers. There is need for you to understand the business, understand the product, and all of those things. So it's a whole lot of mix. Okay, but the point that I want you to know is that if you were successful where you're coming from, you will, find it not too much of a hard task being successful where you're going, because I believe a salesman anywhere can always be, somewhere can always be a successful salesman anywhere. Okay, so but we can take this off air, because it's not so related to the topic that we're discussing. Okay,
yeah,
okay, sir.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
Let me
please.
just add just two lines to that.
Okay.
You've
Okay.
said it right,
Yes.
Olubenga. With adding that a salesman is always a salesman. I will just add just two sentences to say that number one, it's a different type of sales. So you should have, while you want to build up on some fundamental abilities you have over the years of you've built over the years, also come with the mindset of learning what is different about this whole system.
Exactly. That's also true.
Go more into a key accounts area than just dealing with
Yeah.
informal
Market, open
space.
market stuff.
Um,
Yeah.
How are you?
yes, so have the mentality of I know a lot, but I also need to learn a lot, and that
Yeah.
will help a lot.
Yes.
Thank you.
That
Thank you.
that's so nice.
That's actually what I intend to do too, because no matter how much you know, you can always learn more. So, but
Absolutely.
then I see that this might be the opportunity for me to learn one or two things. So, sir, I
Very
will
good.
reach out to you after the webinar.
No problems. All right.
All
So
right.
Franklin Okafor, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Olubenga. My question really is to Eniola. I mean, being a finance person, so I just want to know, what will you consider as a successful finance business partner to the sales team? I mean, there's always this fight every now and then, like Olubenga also I like that. But what is the look of success between finance and sales? That's success.
Beautiful. Nice question. So what's the look of look of success between finance and sales?
Correct.
So you mean what does success look like?
Exactly. Yes. Between sales and finance.
In terms of what does success between sales and finance?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
from a finance business
I thought I
partner.
touched.
Okay, Franklin, please, can you come again if she can hear you? I'm not sure
Yeah,
she.
probably.
Yeah, so what I'm primarily saying is, what would you consider? I mean, at what point will you say, I've successfully partnered the sales team as a finance person? What is that trigger?
Okay,
So,
okay. Well, it's quite a broad question, right? Because you never business is a going concern, so it never comes to an end. But I think what I would say is maybe when I see a strong collaboration between finance and sales would be when we can both because there will be different issues that will come up at different points in time. But I think the success would be being able to engage and understand the different points of view and come to a mutual agreement or mutual understanding or mutual direction where we would agree on this is the course of action we should take moving forward. And I think that happens on a daily basis. At least for me, if I look back over my career, I tend to have those conversations at different points in time since I've been a junior person. Even up till now, I still have those conversations with my salespeople where on some areas we might come from different points of views, but then we converge, and convergence really is born out of being able to help the other party understand the situation at hand, and also being open to understanding the other party's point of view. And with that, one of the things I've seen that has worked very well for me is defining, the dates and gates as to when we will do what. So a typical example for me will be pricing. Sometimes we have some discussions on pricing, and I try to understand, okay, what's your concern? What do you think could go wrong? And then I also try to make them understand, okay, this is what could go wrong if we don't go down this path. So in some cases, we come to a mutual agreement as to, okay, maybe we'll hold for a while to study ABC, and we define what exactly do we want to learn in that period. And once we have come out of that learning, we make a decision, and we are clear upfront as to what would that decision drive. I think, like I said, being able to bring our salespeople up to speed on how the business is doing, the health of the business, it really helps to make the conversation go smoothly. And also recognizing at the end of the day that delivering the cash, delivering the profits. If you have great margins on an Excel sheet, and you're unable to sell any cases, you still don't deliver the business objective. So it's really being able to engage, be open to understanding the other person's point of view and defining, a convergent way forward that is a win-win for both parties. And then we move on. And of course, there will be those areas where, or those times where the tension will be just so much. You may, in some cases, not agree. And then, you invite other people, and then you see if you can come to a meaningful agreement based on that. Usually, I've found out that when you are open to engaging and sharing all transparently all 90% of the time you will come to an agreement with your sales partner, and that for me will be success. I don't know if that answers your question.
For me,
yes,
I think
absolutely it does.
yeah,
It does.
from time to time, I think you emphasize on engagement, and I think that is very, very important. That this conversation has to keep going on. Nobody, the finance people, like I told you, that's my problem. Finance people, putting the posture of a police. We want to be sure that these guys are not committing fraud, they are bringing in the money and all of that. So, but if we, break that that impression, if we take that impression out of the mix, I believe we'll be able to, work together much better. Okay, so Basi Boniface, I guess you'll be the last person who'll be able to take on this. Please, Basi.
Not the last person. I've been raising my hand.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
I've been raising my hand.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He's on Lagos. My name is Oladapo Akinloye, so I also have a comment.
Okay,
after
please.
Basi. Thank you.
Okay, please. Sorry, I didn't see the hand. Okay, so Basi, please.
Thank you, Mr. Olugbenga Johnson.
Yes, thank you,
I'm
sir.
excited to join this sales chat.
Thank you.
This is my first time, and it has availed me opportunity to learn.
Thank you.
But having said that, the finance person in your life, she has been speaking very well. The knowledge base is very high. I respect her. But I want to ask her this question because she mentioned credit as a sales tool, and then she also talked about health of business. I want to marry these two phrases together because I've been in a business where they were selling on credit before. Then suddenly the policy changed. We now sell on cash and carry. As in, you pay before you get this product.
And then sales will crash.
And then the sales crash. And now management is on sales people. The pressure now is on the sales people. You are not selling. No, it's a normal language in sales environment. So I want her to marry health of the business with credit as a sales tool. How can she marry this together and then say
and ensure a good marriage?
Yes.
Okay. So like I think I mentioned that earlier on, but I'll say it again. I think it's credit is a tool, but it needs to be defined as to how am I going to use this tool. So it's like I give you a car as a salesperson and I need to tell you, okay, this car is supposed to be used for what? I think that's how I see credit. And if I look at it, again, you cannot remove the situation of a business from the choices that the business makes. So I have been in situations where I've had to make a call to say that I cannot afford to give credit to either certain customers or even to any of my customers. I have been in those situations. And that was born out of the fact that, in those situations, as a business, I just could not afford it. So I think that's where, we need to define what exactly are we going for? What can we afford? What are the limits? So I think Binka mentioned it earlier on in terms of, you want to sell to a ShopRite, and ShopRite is a 60 days payment term customer. You're not going to make ShopRite change their payment term. So you need to define, can I afford to sell to ShopRite? Do I have the cash base that will enable me to be able to sell to them and wait 60 days to get my money back? Even if I build it into the pricing, I may not be able to secure the financing that can enable me to hold on for 60 days. And those are the realities. So you really need to look at it from the point of view of, okay, my business is structured in a certain way. And I have my own financing structures. Either I'm getting money from the bank, or I have investors. And I need to look at that and say, okay, fine, based on what I have on ground, what can I afford? Not everything that is rosy-dozy out there is affordable for every business. some businesses, and that's why the strategy comes in terms of where am I going to play and what does it take to win where I'm going to play. So this is how I see the marriage, right? If a business has had to make a call to say it has to be cash and carry, I'm pretty sure there's a reason for that. Probably they do not have the cash. I'm sure that you would rather them be able to pay your salary at the end of the month than to say, oh, sorry, we use your salary to bridge the credit that we had to give XYZ customer. That won't work, right? You know,
That's
in as
war.
much as you love the organization,
That's civil
you
war.
want to sell for the organization, you still expect to get paid at the end of the month. And those are the choices that some organizations might have to make. And it might not be all the time, but there may be reasons why that may be a decision or a choice at a particular point in time. So for me, I see credit as a tool. But you need to define what are you.
Oh, hello. Oh, I think we lost her momentarily. Hello, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, but we can't hear her.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, we can't hear her.
I can hear you.
Yes, but we can't hear her. I think she's frozen. I'm sure it's a network. So maybe while we're waiting for her, so the last comment.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. So the last. So you raised the word. Okay. Yeah. So Mr. He's on Lagos. Even though I know the.
Thank you.
So is your question for Eniola so that we know if she's.
Yes. Really, it's more of a comment.
Okay.
And just a little thing to also chip in. But I also have loved Eniola to have been here to listen to this. Always a pleasure listening to Tobe. And Tobe, thank you for your insights and all of that. And it's also quite liberating and for me, quite mind-blowing listening to Eniola speak this afternoon. Coming from the perspective of a finance professional who is also looking at business from the sales angle with the eyes of sales. Very, very interesting for me. So I saw her speaking finance, talking sales, and also talking marketing. For
Absolutely.
me, it's really quite, and in my mind, I was just thinking, so I've seen a lot of trainings, finance for sales professionals. I think it's a time to also introduce sales for finance professionals. Because Eniola has just come.
I'm so sorry, I lost connection.
Yes.
Finance business partner for the business.
Sorry, Mr. Lada, please, can you just hold on? Eniola, can we hear you now?
I'm sorry, I lost connection.
Oh, yes.
So I think I already rounded up, right? At the end of the day, I think it's basically looking at credit as a tool and ensuring that it's designed appropriately to support the business.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So please, you can go ahead, Mr. Izo.
Okay, she's back?
Yes, she's back. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Right. So I think that's something, so that's where my suggestion.
Please, you can recap because she missed your comment. So please, maybe you want to go over it again.
Okay, let me just quickly recap. I was just saying thank you, Eniola, for your perspective this afternoon. I was also just saying that I've heard, like Olubenga mentioned earlier, most times finance people come as police. They come, this is a policy, or this is what we have to do. But I'm seeing a professional finance speak as a business partner to the business. So coming as a finance professional saying, oh, this is the health business, this is what we need to do, but also making salespeople to understand that. So part of the suggestion I was making, I mentioned earlier that I've seen a couple of trainings and learning interventions talking about finance for sales professionals. I think there's a time we should always also be talking about sales for finance professionals. Most finance people don't really look at business from that perspective. They look at, oh, we are the one controlling the business, we are the one seeing whatever, but of course they are not coming as a business partner to come and support the business. But you have spoken from that angle brilliantly this afternoon. Thank you so much for that. I made a comment earlier. So when the initial question came up, and I'm a performance management evangelist. I always say performance management is very critical, very key. The business must always be clear around what are the goals, what are the objectives. Like Tobe mentioned earlier, so for me as a salesperson, it's not just be about numbers. It's not just the words. How am I delivering these numbers? I think it's very critical. So if I sell, and I even exceed my target, but I've eroded value for the business, I've not brought any value to the business. So that's why I also want to say that whoever is responsible, let's always be clear that we are managing performance of the goals, the objectives, and the direction of the business. So that we'll be able to marry the what and the how to deliver for the business. Thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you, Benga, for organizing this.
Thank you, Oladapo. Thank you so much. So I believe at this point, so do we have anyone? I think we've taken all the comments and the questions. And I'm sure we are also some 20 minutes above, short 20 minutes beyond the time that we have agreed. I know Eniola has to go back to, so how are you enjoying this work from home?
Well, I think it's become the new normal, right? So
Wow.
you've gotten used to it.
It's okay. So just keep approving the budget for the salespeople from home. Don't let them feel that you're not in the office. Because naturally they would have barged into your office and harassed you to be able to, you know.
They're my best friends. They're my
All
best
right.
friends.
So so at this juncture, I would like to, okay, somebody is talking.
Let me just say one last thing.
Okay, yeah.
Just make a final remark before we go.
Yes, I was going to call for that. Yes.
No. Okay. So a lot of kudos to Eniola. I have to say that I appreciate a lot of how balanced your view is to a lot of these things, because one of the biggest challenges we have in companies is when the thinking is not balanced. So you have everybody fighting for their own territory. You have the marketing guys fighting, and everybody just fighting for their own space. But there always has to be that discussion around sustainability of the business. So, for example, the gentleman that talked about credits. You should also understand that the business is operating in a highly competitive environment.
Sure.
So credits in some cases becomes the competition point. So that's why sometimes it seems like salespeople are fixated on credit. But that said, I know a number of big FMCG companies or big companies in Nigeria that are saying they are very stringent on credit. So even ShopRite, if we talk about the retail space, they are practically the biggest, and they are very strict on their policies. And the thing is, credit, like Eniola said, is just one tool. There are other tools. You can have a product that is one of a kind, and then you don't really have to do credit because you don't have any credible competition. So that takes me to the fact that we are talking about sales and finance, but there are also a number of facets to business. So in an ideal business, there will be more than sales and finance. If the product development guys develop a superior product, well, for me, I'm an advocate of a superior product leading the way.
Yeah.
So if you have a superior product, it makes it easier to sell.
Yeah.
And if it's easier to sell, then you don't have to do a number of the quote and unquote desperate things that would cause friction between you and finance. So if marketing does their jobs, it makes sales job easier, it makes finances job easier. So it's the whole ecosystem that really makes this thing work. So at every point in time, it's really about what the business wants to achieve and how all the elements within the business, work to make that, a reality.
Thank you so very much for that closing remark. And over to you, Eniola, your closing remark, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Tobina. I think you're spot on. And thank you to Izon. I think his point of performance management, is also very, it's a very, very good point. I think overall, you've said it, most of it, we've said a lot of that, there will always be tension points, functional tension points. Yeah. At the end of the day, we just all need to, in our different organizations, recognize that, the competition or the competitor is not within, it's out there. And we all should and ideally will be working towards one goal, and we all complement each other in working towards those goals. I think the one thing I would just say is that, I think it's critical, and I challenge my team on this one is, when you work with people, really, really seek to understand, what they do, because your understanding of what they do helps you to better be in a position to help them. Absolutely. So if you really understand what a sales guy is doing, then you can tell him, oh, this is how you can do it better, because I know what you're trying to do. I can tell you a way you can do it better. So I think that would be my, that's what I would leave with the team in terms of, go back to your organizations, ask your finance person, help me understand, what exactly are you looking at? What are you saying? What are you trying to achieve? Maybe there's a way I can tell you how we can do that better if I only knew what we're trying to do. I think if we all take that approach in our different areas, I think at the end of the day, we'll be able to better complement each other and, improve our overall, results as an organization, in the different places where you all work. So that would be my, my closing point, so to speak. And
what a wonderful way to close. What a wonderful way to close. Yeah. So you saved the best for the last. That was a wonderful one. And so I want to thank you so much for, I know it's been a lot of struggle for me to be able to pull you out of this. It would have been
thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much. And then I also want to thank Tobina. Thank you so much for all that you do, for deepening the thoughts and the conversations in this space. I appreciate you so much. I also want to thank everyone that has been part of this today. We would have thought maybe we'll have 200 people, but this number are people that have taken something away from here today, people that have given in something and taken something away from here. And it's a room. When you have people in a room, it's no longer a room, it's become a market. So it's been a chat room. I want to thank everyone. Eniola, Tobina, Akinwale, Baha. We didn't hear you, my friend from. Please, I would like to hear you talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Inga. It's been a pleasure, and I enjoyed the discussion.
Yes.
And I think the finance people they moved their business process and the way they do business from preparation to insight.
Yes.
And for the past 10 years, I think that was the way forward. And I do believe the sales team, they have to adopt that very soon as well.
Yes.
So they seriously move from the preparation to insight. And I will just say a small thing. Maybe many people will not be happy from what I'm going to say. In the whole implementations I've done around 45 ERP projects till now. And I always see the most uncommitted people to receive training and to use technology were the salespeople. So that's another obstacle. But I do believe the new way of doing sales have totally changed. I like the comment which the lady, she said that's the new norm. So I do believe if the sales team, they start putting technologies together, looking for integrated systems, and moving that forward, they will provide the communication. And I think, in my personal opinion, communication is one of the key factors which we are having issues in here in Nigeria. So I promise you, big companies, they still today finance, they report revenue in one side, and the sales team report revenue on the other side. They've never been tally with each other, and that's basically part of the communication. Aside of having integrated systems and all of the technology, but the communication is a key factor to get things right. But thank you for organizing this, Binga. I know it's been a while. You tried to organize it with a physical attendance, I think, before 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And maybe that didn't work, unfortunately, but all the best for all of you. Thank you for the speakers and attendees. And thank you for making a good Friday for us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ba. Thank you, Franklin Okafor. Thank you, Oluwaseun. So we're going to do this again next month. So thank you very much for your time. We appreciate this very much. And we wish you all the best and the beautiful rest of the week. Oh, Oladapo, you still want to say something? Oh, yeah. Okay, I saw you clapping. Okay. So thank you so much and have a good weekend. Thank you all.
You too. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.